I just wanted you to describe one of your experiences with gender stereotypes.
So basically, one of my experiences with gender stereotypes is that when I was in seventh grade or middle school, right now I'm not experiencing much of it, but when I was in seventh grade, I think I would constantly be picked on by different kinds of classmates based on my choices because people nowadays like to classify girls as tomboys, girly girls, and etc., which I think is very stereotypical because in this society, usually we are taught to be equal to genders. But what I've experienced is people making fun of me for like my choices. Like I like gaming a lot, and I like going out, I like going to rock parties, etc. And people might see that as a bit boyish, but really it's just your opinion. And I did feel a bit attacked back at that time because I was constantly made fun of by people. But slowly and slowly, I think I got over.
I don't think any stereotype is relevant in today's day and age. I think we're living in a very progressive time. Yes, I think all these stereotypes started at a time when we were, as a civilization, degenerating in values and collective consciousness. So no, I don't believe in stereotypes. I don't think they're essential. I think, in fact, they're quite the contrary. Oh, for sure, for sure. So of course stereotypes exist, because maybe not to that extent and people would think, but they exist at every level. So I was never like an extremely feminine person as when I was growing up. Young ladies, they go to the parlor and they're like, you know, doing themselves up and all. I went and got my hair shaved like really short, and I was in baggy pants, and I was wearing army tags, name tags and stuff like that I got from my army friends. And yeah, so I was not the typical girl for sure. And though I didn't face much uh, too many biases from my friends, but I do know that there were people who told me to be more effeminate and sit a certain way or be more girl-like. Collective consciousness, or a rise in collective consciousness. And what that really means is to take responsibility for their own thinking and actions and their own role in the whole collective setup. Not think that they're independent of the changes, the transformation that is happening in the world around them. Or not look to the other, like the whole political system these days. It's like, we didn't do it, you did it. So like that's like everywhere. It's like, hey, wait a minute, like own up and take responsibility that you are actually making a difference and saving and serving and doing something. We're all humans and we're one. So I think it's a mindset, and it has to set in. It's slowly setting in. There are, say, we need movements as such. I think it comes out of very insecure times, which led to patriarchy. And by patriarchy, I don't just mean just male dominant systems. I just mean control systems, And any control system came out of the simple need to overpower something, to manipulate something. So they can feel powerful. So obviously it came from an insecure place, right? So I think if I was to write a definition in the dictionary, it would be, for gender stereotype, it would be a facet of insecurity. See, I think there were times when our ancestors defined roles based on logic. I don't think it's all, irrational. I think some of it actually makes sense. Some of it has trickled down. Like, let's face it, like women's bodies are made differently. Okay. Men are different. Men's bodies we are innately either more feminine or masculine based on our biology. So based on that, there were some roles that were naturally more aligned with a woman, and there were some roles which were naturally more aligned with a man. I mean, if somebody says you cannot do that, that's wrong. But there are certain roles that I feel like women fit into better and men do better in certain ways. If they choose otherwise, that's up to them.
Hi sir, good afternoon. Today I'm going to be asking you questions about gender stereotypes.
Okay.
Do you think the movies targeted for today's children are more or less gender stereotypic than the movies you watched as a child?
Me growing up watching movies as a child, whether they were movies in India or international movies, they were more pointing out faults in gender and conforming to gender norms. Rather today it's become more dynamic and open. So
And as a child, what toys did you play with? Were these toy selections at all influenced by your parents, the media, or friends?
I think friends mostly because I was in an all boys boarding school and I'm not into sports. So there was in fact a lot of bullying and a lot of stereotyping that all boys should be playing games. So I got into not sports but I got into swimming because of that. I enjoyed it but I never conformed to any of such stereotypes.
Thank you. How do you define your organization where you work in terms of gender ratio option?
Schools and education is such an industry where you will have almost 90%, over 90% female gendered people than males. So yeah, I'm in the minority. Yeah.
How can we fight gender stereotypes at home?
And there is a huge generation gap between your parents and you, right? So I would say when such things occur, when you feel that there's a lot of gender stereotyping happening or you are focused for that, just tell them honestly that see, this is I feel should not be happening because it's becoming about gender and not about me. So if you educate your parents about your feelings, I think they will transform.
Hi ma'am, today I'm going to interview you for the gender stereotypes. As a child, what toys did you play with? Were these toy selections at all influenced by your parents, the media, or friends?
So I used to generally play with dolls, but it was not influenced by anyone. I liked playing with dolls.
Do you believe that there are any gender roles that people should be taught to follow?
In India, to a certain extent, yes. But I think with time, people are becoming much more open-minded. They are not, the younger generation is not as biased as the older ones. And abroad, I don't think it really exists too much. So,
How do you define your organization where you work in terms of gender ratio? Option male dominated, female dominated, or neutral?
So I think the education industry is female dominated, and so is the case in our organization too. But that's because there are more female educators than men.
How can we fight gender stereotypes at home?
That's a very good question. The younger generation should be answering that instead of us. So I think we can. How can we really fight? I don't think it's fight. It's the kind of upbringing that we need to do and within our children, and not make any typical things that only a boy can do this or a girl can do this. So if the parents are neutral and they accept things without being too judgmental about what the person is doing, I think that will make sure that everyone lives or does things that they want to, and there is no kind of bias to it that this only females do or this only males do.
Thank you for your time, ma'am.
Welcome.
Hi, sir. Today I'm going to ask you some questions about gender stereotypes.
Sure.
Do you think the movies targeted for today's children are more or less gender stereotypic than the movies you watched as a child?
No, actually, it's vice versa. It's actually opposite. I believe nowadays the filmmakers are becoming more conscious about what's happening around the city. There are more open conversations about these things. So I get the filmmakers, the writers, they are becoming more conscious about the stories they want to tell. And at let's say 10 years, 20 years ago, the filmmakers, the writers were not very conscious because such conversations were not happening out in society. So I believe that nowadays the filmmakers are being very, very conscious about what they want the audience to see.
Okay. Do you believe that there are any gender roles that people should be taught to follow?
Absolutely not. That's something which I'm totally against. I don't believe in this ideology and the concept that roles are meant for genders. I mean, any gender can do any role. It's all about what you're comfortable with, what your interest, where does your interest lies. Gender should not be a point of consideration before picking up a role.
How do you define your organization where you work in terms of gender ratio option? Male dominated, female dominated, or neutral?
No, it's female dominated, and there's a reason behind it. I mean, for the past 5 years, I've been in the education industry. Before that, I was in corporate. Over there, it was somewhat neutral because nowadays, female participation is as important as male participation. But education industry is still female dominated, and that's because of the society. That's because 10 years, 20 years, 30 years ago, females were supposed, because apparently education or teaching is supposed to be a female job, like because it used to be that it's an easy job where you start your day at 7, you finish your day at 1, you have time for your family. So it was supposed to be a very female oriented job, and that is the reason. But nowadays I see a lot of male, and I'm one prime example of that we want to get into this industry, and again, I mean, gender should not be stopping us.
How can we fight gender stereotypes at home?
I guess it has to start. I mean, that's something which I tell parents that kids don't do what you tell them to do. Kids do what you do. So if you aren't practicing gender bias, then your kids won't. So I guess these very, very small things, where a father is cooking at home, where a mother is going out and work, and where a sister is not asked that why are you coming after 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, where at the same time the brother is not asked, whereas the sister is asked. So these kind of very, very small things what kids pick up on, and it's a very simple thing that you yourself don't need to be gender biased. If you're not, then your kids won't be.